Hi, and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be reviewing Ethnos. This was designed by Paolo Mori and published by Simon Games. More specifically, I'm going to be reviewing the second edition of Ethnos, which has art by David Tosello. If you're familiar with this game, then you probably know that many reviewers have given the first edition some high praise, including Shut Up and Sit Down. They did refer to the art as I believe it was a bowl of bland gray soup, so not great. Ethnos second edition went in a very different direction and added a big splash of color and some anthropomorphic animals. That could be a bit of a turnoff for some people because I would say that's been overdone in the board game industry recently. But overall, I really like this art. I think they did a great job with this production overall, and I really like the look of this on the table. And the players that I've had play this so far also really enjoyed it. So I do think the second edition is a big improvement over that first edition art. Um, and just to basically state my overall opinion here, I'm going to be agreeing with those other reviewers. This game's great. So let's get into it. Let's start with a quick overview of what this game is. It is a majority game, area majority game with some open drafting and hand management. And really, I would say that hand management is set collection. So on a player's turn, there are going to be two choices. They either get to draft a card or play a party. So drafting a card is either going to be doing a draw from the top of the deck or taking a card from this open market over here. What's interesting about this market is that it doesn't actually refill from the deck like in most games. This is only going to refill when players take that second action, the play a party action. So when playing a party, you must select, a party consists of one or more cards, and you must select one card to be the leader. A party has to consist of either all of the same clan, so this right here would be a party. This is all the Raven clan, which is that hex symbol up in the top left corner of the card, or you must select all of one region. So this is the region, that little banner on the left, or that long banner on the left, the color will indicate the region of the board. So a party will either be all of one clan or all of one region, and then you'll select one of those cards in a party to be the leader. The leader is important because that is the area that you are going to evaluate for adding a control marker. So if your party size is greater than the number of control markers you have in the area of your leader, you get to place one more control marker. So you just take that and plop that down into whichever area you were focused on. And then you also get to do the leader's ability. So most of the leader's ability are going to be essentially dependent upon the number of cards you play in your party, but they all have their own unique advantages for the game, and we'll talk about these a little bit more in the future. Now, the other thing that's important to know about playing a party is that, so let's say I choose to play my three card Raven party. So I'm going to place that in front of me, and then any cards remaining in my hand are going to be discarded to that open market. And this is definitely one of the best parts of the game because this is where everyone at the table says, "Ooh, ah, what'd you just give me? Okay." And then maybe one player sees, "Ah, you discarded a bear. That was foolish of you. That's exactly what I was looking for." No. So then play is going to continue like this, going around the table and pretty snappy around the table because these actions are both pretty quick and pretty simple to grasp. But then the game will end when the third dragon card is drawn from the deck. So these three dragon cards will be shuffled into the second half of the deck at the beginning of the round. The first two dragon cards won't do anything. They are just basically warning cards telling you that the game is nearing the end. And then once that third dragon card is drawn, the round will end immediately. And then once the round ends, players are going to score prestige points. So prestige points will be scored in each region of the board. Essentially, you'll evaluate each region for control and score players a number of prestige points based on the variable setup of prestige point markers. The other main scoring mechanism is going to be the party size. So those parties you played in front of you are going to be scored based on how large the party size, and there's a little scoring track printed on the board there for reference. Essentially, if you played a party size of 1, you're going to get 0 points for that party. But then if you played a party size of 3, you get 3 points. Then let's say you get a party size of 5, you get 10 points. So it scales up as you play larger and larger parties, which really benefits you. So even though maybe playing a party size of 5 to a region where you only need to play a party size of 2 to add a control marker seems like it might be a bit of a waste. You'll still get a bunch of points. Like that is a huge scoring mechanism in the game, is playing large party sizes. Okay, so now that we have the basics out of the way, that's a good enough overview for the game. We can finally start talking about what I think is good for this game. And be more specific, I'm going to say what I think is great in this game because I absolutely love this game. It is fantastic. So the first thing I'm going to mention, this game is fast. There's just very little downtime in this game. It is snappy going around the table. Essentially, a lot of times players are going to be searching for a card. It's a bit of a push your luck thing. You're going to be drawing from the deck, adding to your hand, and then players are just going to keep on doing this until they get the right cards they want. They're going to be like, oh, here's my party. I play this party, add a control marker, discard this card to the deck, trigger my leader ability. Okay, next player. So this game goes around the table quick. Uh, and these leader abilities, they are all pretty simple. Nothing's too complex, but they're all consequential in the game. Each one of them matters. Like you might want to do a different one at each time. This maybe you want to play the Raven Clan. This one allows you to draw cards equal to your party size that you just played. So basically, you get to burn down this deck and try to rush the end of the round. Maybe you want to play the Fox Clan, which allows you to gather one of these Fox tokens based on your party size. And these will operate as tiebreakers in the region. So maybe it's getting harder for you to put down control tokens, and those tiebreakers can be huge for winning points. And then the other part of this is, or another one is like the red panda. The red panda allows you to keep cards in your hand equal to the party size you just played, so you can just deny players those cards that you've been hoarding for the game. So these are all fantastic decisions that you get to make during the game. And I cannot understate how important some of these are, like that Fox Clan, those tiebreakers. That can be a huge swing in the game is having that tiebreaker token. And the other thing I should mention is that the base box comes with 12 clans. So that is 12 unique leader abilities. And guess what? You only need 6 to play the game. They didn't need to include 12. They gave you 2 games worth of these leader abilities. And at the beginning of a game, you're essentially going to take this deck of 12 cards representing the clans. You're just going to shuffle them up and select 6. So right there, you have a ton of built-in variability into this game. Now, I will also mention that there is a promo out there which will come with another 4 clans that you can use for setup. Do you need these? Nah, not really. I mean, there's so much in this box already that I don't think they're that important. But are they nice to have? Sure. Yeah, they're definitely. You betcha they're great. So the next thing that I want to mention that I really enjoy about this game is the region scoring. The region setup on this, you're going to seed the board with the scoring tokens. Essentially, you're going to select 3 random scoring tokens, and then you're going to flip them over and place them in ascending order on the track. Each round is going to unlock basically the next scoring token. So in the first round, only that first scoring token, only the first place is going to get points for that region. In the second round, first place is going to get the round 2 scoring token, and then second place will get the round 1 scoring token points. And then third round, you're going to unlock you're going to have 3 players score. So first place gets the round 3 token, second round, and third is going to get that first round token. And as I mentioned, these are in ascending order, so it's generally going to be where that third round is going to award first place way more points than that first round. But because these are randomly seeded, you can get a really unique setup on the board. Like what happens if the region has 3 4-point tokens? So essentially every round that region is just worth 4 points for each place. Whereas another region might be 4 4 12 points. So those first 2 rounds are only worth 4 points each, but that third round is worth 12, which is the largest token in the game. So do you just go heavy on that one to prepare for that third round? That I don't know. There's so many different paths you can take on just scoring these regions. And then also, maybe you're not winning the region, so you're just going for those large party sizes. Maybe you're trying to get those 4, 5, and 6 party sizes. So like I said, that region maxes out at 12 points, but if you play a party of 5, that's 10. So maybe you just try to play multiple parties of 5 and just max out your party size scoring. There's just, it just has a great decision space for how to score points for each player. This brings me into the just the idea of basically what are people going to be fighting over on this board? It's like that 12-point region. Are people just going to be throwing down all their control tokens in there? Are you going to be the one that's like, ooh, I'm going to leave that area alone because that's where everyone's going. So I'm going to try and take over all these other small areas. It's just it's fantastic. It is area majority done right. Now, the last thing I'll mention that is I absolutely about this game are these three dragon cards. So this game would be functionally the same if they would have just given you one dragon card and said, shuffle this into the second half of the deck. And then the round ends when you pull it. But by adding three, so these first two do absolutely nothing. Basically, the player will just discard them and draw a new card. But they act as a warning system. So the first one's just a warning, just telling you, hey, you've gotten to the second half of the deck. You might want to watch out. So everyone has to start thinking like, oh, what are the actions I think I can start getting done? But then when someone pulls that second dragon card, it's like, oh no, oh crap, I'm holding on too many cards. I gotta start doing things and getting rid of this and taking these actions. You start to just cringe whenever someone pulls from that deck because you're so afraid of that third dragon popping up. The whole atmosphere at the table just takes this massive shift where you're just like you're hoping people are taken from that open market and you just don't want anyone taken from the deck anymore. So adding this warning system into the game just makes that so much more fun. It really adds to the tension in this game. Now, let's shift into what I think is bad about this game. Now, the first thing I'm going to call out is the score track. This is relatively minor, and it's not really. It's hard to say it's a flaw with the game. I would say it's more of a flaw with kind of player personalities. So each round you're going to score points, and during these rounds, the score point trackers, you can have some pretty radical differences in scores. So someone could be towards the start, while one player could be halfway around the board. Uh, and this creates for some players, they just get demoralized by seeing the score tracker. They start to say, oh, I'm out of the running. Like, there's no point in really doing anything because, like, I can't catch up to first place anymore. So they kind of just check out of the game. And I would say that this really brings down the experience when this happens with a player. And I do my best to make sure this doesn't happen at the table, but there are some people that when they just look at the scoring track, they are just going to experience that. They can't really control it. They're just going to be like, I've lost, I check out, I'm not really interested in this anymore. But the problem is that I don't really think this is a problem because, as I mentioned, the scoring ramps up so much. Like in round three, there's so many more points available to players that you can have just a radical shift in player positions on that final round. So I don't think anyone is truly out of the game by that third round. Now I can say people can probably get themselves into a bad spot and maybe they can potentially be out of the running for winning. But I really think that this is one of those games where you need to make it apparent to players like, hey, don't worry too much about these score tracks because in that third round, there's just going to be a flood of points for everyone that all these positions could radically change in that third round. So don't give up. Know that you're probably still in the game. The other well, so while that first issue was definitely a player issue, the second problem I have with this game is definitely an Ethnos production issue. So the symbology on the cards is pretty good. Overall, like the clan symbols, they have a nice kind of a black and then a black symbol representing the clan, then a colored background. Now those colored backgrounds I'm not crazy about because they are very similar. So as I mentioned, there's 12 clans in the base game, and then you can have up to 4 more, so 16 total if you have the promo pack. And the colors between some of these cards are very similar. So I wish they would have just done kind of like a black and white instead of doing the black plus a color background because sometimes you look at like the tigers, which are orange, and then you have the foxes, which are maybe red orange. They look almost the exact same, and you can only tell by the icon in there. So it does have that dual coding, which is totally fine. But the real issue comes into the region coding. So as I mentioned, on the left-hand side of the card, there's this banner here, the color representing the region. Now, if you're colorblind, you have to know the region by the art on the card. And the issue is that the art representing the region on this card is nowhere on this board. So like for example, I have, let's take green and brown. So that's probably going to be a big issue for some players because that green is going to essentially show up as brown. Or these two will look similar. So you have to know that the butterflies on this card mean forest. There are no butterflies in the forest on this board. And then you have to know that this little like runny mudslide, I guess, is for the desert region. Overall, I think this was a really poor choice for the dual coding. I wish they would have had some sort of icon that was represented on the board for that region dual coding. Now, I think that is a pretty easy barrier to get over. Once players learn those regions, there's only six, so it's not a lot of information to keep a hold of. So it's probably just going to be a problem maybe in that first round or so. So it's not a huge issue, but it is kind of an annoyance with the production. Other than that, I really don't have anything else to say about this. So let's just talk about a few tips for the teach. First, I would say during the teach, do multiple examples of parties. Make it clear that the leader is the only one that determines the region that you're operating in. And second, make it clear that the leader is the only power that you're going to trigger. Um, then for parties, I also make it very clear that the party size, you're only comparing if you played more party members than you have control tokens. And no matter how big your party is, you're still only going to place a maximum of one control token. There's always confusion on the first play where a player's like, I played 6 cards, why can't I play 6 control tokens? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But it is just your party's going in and they're just upping your control by a maximum of one. Now, during this phase, I also mentioned that like you are still allowed to play a smaller party size. Like even if you don't place it, like the control token is a action that only triggers if you play more than you have, but it is still totally fine to play less than just to get that leader ability or just to get that party size scoring. And then I've already mentioned that the score track, some players will get disheartened by it, so I do make sure to mention that in the third round is going to be where a flood of points happen. So I try to remind players to realize that they're probably not totally out of the game, and they should really kind of wait for that end game to kind of be like, oh yeah, I definitely lost. Don't assume you've lost in the first or second round of the game. And one last thing that I call out is the market. So when a player takes a card from the market, I make sure to remind players, do not refill from the draw deck. For hobby gamers, it is almost a reflex when someone takes a card from a market to reach for that deck and just flip a card over right away. So it is really kind of just overriding that, making sure to be like, hey, don't touch the draw deck. um, and those are my only real standout tips for this one. I think this is a pretty easy game to teach, so now we can move on to my final thoughts for the game. All my complaints fairly minor, so as I mentioned, this game is fantastic. I love it. It plays fast, the decisions are fun, the players are engaged, there's tons of variability in the base box. I also didn't even mention that this plays 1 to 6 players. I have no idea how the solo mode plays, but I imagine this would play really good from 2 to 5. I do worry that at 6, you may just feel like you have no control because this deck is going to deplete pretty rapidly at 6 players. But I actually would say it seems like it's going to be totally functional and it's going to work fine. I'm guessing that the sweet spot is in that 4-5 range though. Um, and then yeah, of course, as I meant, like, did I say turns are quick? It's just so nice where you go around the table and players are like, done, 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 party, next, done. So this game is just so snappy to play. And then the last thing is that the game has an MSRP of $35. I didn't know CMON was allowed to publish a game for less than 100. So this is a crazy price for what you get in this box. And that's MSRP. You can, if you're patient, you can probably find this on sale. I got mine on sale for a pre-order sale, and I think it was like $23 or something. And that is just an absolutely phenomenal deal. Even at $35, I would have been thrilled with this game. Like the fact that I got this on sale, I would not deter me from buying this game at full price. So yeah, thanks for watching. That's going to do it for today. I hope this was helpful, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Definitely tell me the things I'm wrong about, and probably not the things I'm right about. My wife says I really don't need the ego boost. And have you clicked any of those buttons yet? So we all know it's coming. I kind of have to say it because you probably haven't clicked the buttons. So please like and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. I'm just starting up this channel, so more engagement will definitely help me out. Thanks for watching.